I'm Shain, a New York Jewish mom who had the audacity in 1993 to continue a geriatric pregnancy and give birth at the age of 46.
And I'm Sarah, the result of that pregnancy. 32 years later, I'm currently a practicing therapist. Though Shain is often thought to be my grandmother, she's still my mom, and this is Listen to My Mother,
a podcast where we answer your real-life questions with 2 points of view, one rooted in motherly instinct,
and one rooted in clinical training.
You'll get guidance, support, maybe a little tough love, but always from the heart.
And if you'd like us to answer your question on air, head to the link in our show notes and send it our way. We want to hear any questions you have.
And now it's time to
Listen to My Mother.
Hello. Hi, sweetheart.
Hi.
Since our last recording, we've actually been together in person, and we were together in Copenhagen, Denmark. Why? Because my brother's grandson was being bar mitzvah. My brother has been gone since 2018, so my sister kind of guilted me into making this trip, saying we have to represent our brother. We have to represent Hal. He's not there for his grandson's bar mitzvah, and there is no way he wouldn't be there if he was alive. So we made plans, just the two of us, to share this experience and be there. And then you knew you were going right away because this was an opportunity for you to travel, and you will not pass up an opportunity to travel. And once you made the decision to go, your brother and your sister, went over it, or it took them a while to decide, well, they were going to go and take the children. So it ended up that our whole family was there, and it was the first time that you and Mara and David, my children, were together with all their cousins in one place since for 11 years it had happened previously at one of
a different bar mitzvah.
A different bar mitzvah, but it was in Vermont. So It was so cute. There is a picture of the 8 of you lined up, and you replicated it in Copenhagen, lined up exactly the same, and took a picture of you all together. It was a fabulous, magical, amazing time together. I was so happy that my sister forced me to go. It was wonderful. Your Israeli cousins who now live in Denmark. It was just amazing, the whole experience, the sense of it. But that's what we did between our 2 podcasts. Mm-hmm. And now we're home. And we dealt with whatever it is that happens when you come home from a trip.
Right, so you had like a whirlwind trip. You were only there for 5 days. I was there for 4 days, but then I went off to Georgia and Azerbaijan for another 2 weeks. And I just got back a couple days ago, and I am still fighting the jet lag. I was supposed to go hang out with friends last night, and I bailed at the last minute and went home, and I was asleep by 8:30. Because I'm fighting the jet lag, and the jet lag is winning. But it was a good thing that I fell asleep at 8:30, because Reese woke me up at 1 o'clock in the morning, barking like there was an intruder in the house. And actually, there was a brief moment where I was worried that there was an intruder in the house, because he was staring at the window that goes to the alleyway between my house and my neighbor's house, and the alleyway is maybe not even 3 feet across, and there is access to it from the street, so there could have been an intruder. And Reese is losing his mind, so now I'm really nervous, and I don't want to peek out the window just in case there's a person there, so I made sure all the lights were off, and I looked out the window and there was nothing there. But then I saw upwards a little bit on the roof of the neighbor's house, a little glint, and I was like, okay. So I took my phone light and I put it up to the window so it was illuminating the outdoors, and there was a raccoon on my neighbor's roof just staring into our living room. So Reese is freaking out. He and this raccoon are having a staring contest, losing his mind, barking at this raccoon, and the raccoon's just chilling on my neighbor's roof. And I probably should text my neighbor and just be like, FYI, there was a raccoon on your roof last night. I don't know how it got up there, but there was a raccoon on your roof.
Dad has caught 3 raccoons. And we haven't really seen raccoons up here. But he has, in the last couple of weeks, caught 3 raccoons in the heart trap, where he then traps groundhogs and whatever and takes them away and releases them in the woods. But raccoons, and there was also a blast in the local paper about raccoons being found with rabies. So don't mess with the raccoon.
Right, but if you see them at night, that's when you're supposed to see them. If you see them during the day, that's when you should be alarmed.
Right. So sorry you had a raccoon event, but after you were here visiting and we had the dog door open so your dogs could go in and out easily, I left it open. I didn't even think about it. And one day I came home and something was amiss in my house. A plant was knocked over. The bread on my counter was taken out of the plastic bag and laying on the counter. There was just all kinds of stuff that was out of order, and realized it had to have been a raccoon. And they don't like bread. It didn't eat the bread.
But it came in through the dog door.
Through the dog door. And I had my sliding door open from my porch into the house. And he just came in, took a walk around the house, didn't leave much of a mess, really. It wasn't much to clean up, and then left. So since then, I've closed the dog door.
Well, after that happened in your house, we connected it to a couple days earlier in Dad's house. We came home to find the cocoa powder container on the floor in the middle of the living room. And we're like, why is this here? This is so crazy. Who would have left this here? That's so weird. And after the raccoon came into your house, we realized that the raccoon must have come into Dad's house and found the cocoa powder and carried it around the house and then left it in the middle of the living room.
I mean, they're very polite. I really wasn't too much of a mess.
They have opposable thumbs. They have little hands. They can do anything.
How sweet. But they could also be rabid, so...
Yes, I know. And now I'm nervous. If there's rabid raccoons hanging out in my alley behind my house, I can't have the dogs outside in the backyard, because what if a raccoon comes into the yard and attacks the dogs?
Okay, on that I have no advice whatsoever. So
let's switch gears to something you do have advice on. Yeah.
Well, this submission that we got this time, I don't know so much that I have advice, that I have more of a reaction to.
Okay.
I think, I'm not sure, but I have a feeling you and I may be our first episode where we might disagree. So that'll be a new experience where we're not on the same page. But I had a bit of a reaction to this submission. Since I am the one that always prints it out, I'll read it.
Okay.
This one's pretty short, which is part of my issue. There's not enough information in it, but I can only go by what has been submitted in order to react to it. So this is submitted by Mel, and she wrote, I have a friend who's in a relationship that's becoming more serious, and it's starting to affect our close-knit friend group. We've all lived together for 4 years, but lately she's been distancing herself from us. I've asked her multiple times why she's been missing our group events, and she's repeatedly said she's feeling depressed. Recently, though, she admitted that her boyfriend doesn't like her hanging out with us. That added context makes things feel more complicated. I'm wondering whether I should talk to her about what seems like a controlling dynamic, or if I should let it go. I'm sad and frustrated. I've tried having conversations with her, but she's easily offended by any conversation of her boyfriend. I'm just highlighting another thing that popped out at me on this submission. Okay.
For such a short submission, you have a lot of notes on that piece of paper.
I do. I have a lot of notes because this has been my reaction to this submission. Like I said, there's not enough information for me to really understand who's doing what to who. Mm-hmm. But based on what was submitted, if there's a controlling dynamic here, I'm sorry, I feel like it's Mel who's controlling the dynamic. She says her friend is in a relationship that's becoming more serious. Her friend's relationship, becoming more serious, is affecting the friend group. Are we allowed to let someone who is in this friend group have a life outside of the friend group? We've all lived together for 4 years. She's been distant. When you are in a relationship with someone and you have a friend group, do you not end up somewhat distancing yourself from the group because your time is going to be with the person you've chosen to become serious with? Yeah, I'm having a hard time with Mel here. She's repeatedly said she's feeling depressed. So I ask, depressed about what? Is she depressed because she's missing friend group events? Is she depressed because her boyfriend is pressuring her? Is she depressed because her friend group is not being so kind about her boyfriend? We don't know why she's depressed. All right, so moving on. Recently, though, she admitted that her boyfriend doesn't like hanging out with us. Admitted, which means somebody said to her, do you not like hanging out with us because of your boyfriend? So she admitted yes. I mean, it's like, were words put into her mouth? Did she say that to get her friends to sympathize rather than criticize that she's spending more time with her boyfriend than with the friend group? And then seems like a controlling dynamic. To me, I'm feeling Mel is trying to control her friend and not leaving her to have a relationship that doesn't quite fit into the friend group. And then she's easily offended by conversations about her boyfriend. So does her boyfriend distance himself from the group because they've shown that they're not so happy he's taking her time away? Or does this person have to navigate between what has become enemy camps? Yeah, I'm just getting, Mel, stay out of it. I mean, if you're going to be upset about losing your friend, you're not losing her. She's still a friend, but she has another life separate from, whatever the group events are that she's missing. Anyway, that's my response to Mel, and I'm sorry, Mel, if I'm misreading, but you didn't give us enough information for me to really be on your side.
Okay. You're right. We do disagree. I mean, I had some thoughts that were somewhat similar in the vein that this reminded me of something that happened with a friend of a friend recently, where I was traveling with my friend, and while we were traveling together, his friend was having a similar sort of issue with her roommate, where the roommate had this long-term partner. They had been roommates for like 10 years, like pretty much since leaving college, they had been roommates. But then the roommate was in a serious relationship and decided to move out to be with the partner. And the friend had like a really bad reaction to that. It was like, you're betraying me, you're abandoning me, how could you move out? And then the friend that I was traveling with was like supporting his friend, like, yeah, this is such a betrayal. But I'm like in the room while I'm listening to him talk to her, and he gets off the phone, and I was like, I mean, but this is also just part of life. Like, eventually you're going to get into a relationship and want to live with your partner. That's normal. This isn't a betrayal of the friendship. This isn't a betrayal of the roommate dynamic. Like, it's the end of an era, and that's heartbreaking, and it makes so much sense for your friend to be having a big emotional reaction to this era ending. I mean, anyone who's watched Friends as much as I have knows that when the best friends have to move out of the apartment, it's heartbreaking, but it has to happen. And that it's actually okay for this person to want to live with their partner.
So you're agreeing with me?
Well, that was one thought that I had when I read the submission, was like, okay, I'm wondering if it is similar to that dynamic. But again, like you keep saying, we don't have enough information really at all. So I have to take this at face value. I have to take this at what is being presented. That Mel is seeing this friend disappearing into a controlling dynamic. And I think that, I mean, I also struggle when I feel like I'm losing a friend to a relationship. I viscerally have a negative reaction when people can't maintain friendships just because they're in a relationship. I don't know if you remember this. One of my best friends in college, we were super close freshman, sophomore, junior years. And then senior year, he got a girl. And he would come to the house all the time and come upstate with me, come home with me. You knew him very well. And senior year, he got a girlfriend and we never spoke again. And I haven't spoken to him in years because he completely disappeared into that relationship. And like suddenly our friendship there was no attention to our friendship. There was no effort put into maintaining our friendship. It didn't even seem like he cared that our friendship dwindled after we had been best friends for 3 years. And that's not the only time that I've experienced something like that, where someone gets into a relationship and suddenly this friend is not available as a friend anymore. They essentially become a stranger, which also, like, having been someone who has been in relationships and been excited about relationships when they get serious, is I know how easy it is to disappear into that and want to prioritize that. And it does require a balance to show up, but it also depends on, like, do you individually want to be the type of person who maintains and continues to show up for your friendships in the same way, even though you're in a relationship? And I know for me personally, I do. I see my closest friendships on the same tier as my relationships. One is not more important to me than the other, and they both deserve the time and energy to keep them healthy and keep them good and keep them strong, regardless of the type of relationship that it is. These are relationships that are important to me. And I'm actually curious, I wonder if you would feel the same if this was Mel's sister. Do you feel the same if it's family, that she's disappearing from family?
I don't know how much she's disappearing from this. It's starting to affect our close friends. We've all lived together for 4 years. Well, that's you're in each other's face. But lately she's been distancing herself. That's not cutting them off. She's still living in the friggin' house with him.
Right, but would you feel differently if this was a family member saying, like, I'm concerned about my sister who seems to be distancing herself from me? Does that change your perspective? That if it's a family member and not a friend?
The term used, distancing herself, I don't even know how to define that without more information. Distancing herself means I've cut you off. I don't have any regard for you at all. Or I'm not going out with you Saturday night, which I've been doing for the last 4 years. I'm going to spend Saturday night with my boyfriend. Is that distancing yourself? I don't have a definition based on this submission. So whether it was my sister, my best friend, my soulmate, as a friend, whoever it is, I've been through that experience with a person who has ended up being my heart soulmate person. When this goes back years ago, our friendship was new and we had made plans to be together. And when I confirmed with her that we're being together, she said, "Oh, I totally forgot. I made plans with my new boyfriend. We're doing this." And I felt kind of put out, but I needed to understand that in her life, this new relationship was necessary for her to move on from something else. And I let her have her space. And this is decades later, and we're so close, so close. You have to leave room for your closest friends or somebody you want to have as a good friend, or in this case, somebody who's really connected to you, you have to leave them some space to live a life that's different. And I'm not getting here that she's been cut off, or just that she's moving in another direction, and lucky her.
Okay, so you're right that we don't have enough information about what distancing herself means. And I want to just say that, like, if it is simply just that she is now spreading her time between her friendships and her relationships, so there's not as much time as a finite resource, so there's not as much available time for the friend group, and this is just a normal part of being in a relationship, and that this is just something that Mel has to come to terms with, okay, fine, but still, what Mel is feeling, that grief of that era ending, is very real. And that sucks. Like, like that saying, you can't go home again? That, like, no matter what, when an era ends, you cannot revitalize that era. That even if this relationship, that the friend's relationship is healthy, and say she marries this man and it's a whatever, this version of their friendship will never exist again. It's okay to mourn that. It's okay to grieve that. It's okay to have really complicated feelings about that. It is the end of something, but it's also the beginning of a different version of this friendship. So like, if we're saying that that's all that's happening here, then yes, the advice would be to kind of just like, okay, grieve this. That's absolutely fair to want to grieve this, and you should grieve this and give it the attention that it deserves. But then also like open yourself up to what the next like stage in your friendship looks like, because it's going to be something totally different, and it can be something wonderful, but you have to let it be wonderful.
My concern here in what Mel has presented is the line, I'm wondering whether I should talk to her about what seems like a controlling dynamic, or if I should let it go. Well, if you want to talk to her, Mel, you cannot approach it with, I am so concerned that you're in a controlling dynamic. If you want more understanding about what's happening, then it has to be as somebody who wants to learn about her relationship and let her tell you where she's at, rather than, I'm concerned that this guy is just controlling you. That's going to cause a breach in the relationship that she's trying to avoid.
So I thought I was going to agree with you, and then I don't agree with you, but for a different reason. I think that in any way that she approaches her friend, the relationship should not be part of it at all. Even like, not even to like, I want to learn more about your relationship. Leave the relationship out of it. And this, I believe, is true whether the relationship is healthy or whether it's actually a controlling dynamic. Any approach that you make with her should only be about you. Like, I'm feeling really sad that we're not connecting. Is there something that we can do together to reconnect?
Okay, I agree with you 100%. 100%. I agree with you. I really did misspeak. Who cares about it's about her relationship with her friend. I agree 100%. Absolutely.
That like, and this advice is true whether it is a controlling dynamic or not. And I would say even especially if it is a controlling dynamic, that to approach it with, I think your boyfriend's a piece of shit, like, that's gonna, basically what that will do, what it almost always does, is it the person who is potentially in a controlling dynamic to kind of see the relationship as, well, it's me and him against the world, so fuck you to anyone who doesn't like this relationship, and it's going to force her further and further away from you.
Absolutely. This whole thing, she's easily offended by any conversation about a boyfriend. You're 100% right. If she's going to talk to her, it's got to be about their relationship, nothing to do with the boyfriend.
Just like, I miss you. I understand that, there is something new happening in your world right now, and I want to make sure that, like, our friendship is still giving, like, the nourishment that it needs to feel strong. And I think, like, the boyfriend said he doesn't like her hanging out with the friend group, which I'll come back to that in a second. But, okay, fine. So don't do something in a group. Come to her one-on-one. It's like, can we go get coffee? Can we go to the park? Can we just spend some time one-on-one together? I miss my friend. I want to give attention to our relationship because I know that it feels really important to give attention to that relationship, and it is important to give attention to that relationship, but I also want to nourish our relationship. Something else, though, like, if I want to switch gears to kind of looking at this, if Mel's take on this is accurate, and again, we don't have enough information, and Mel, you know this dynamic better than we ever will, and maybe, like, there really is a control dynamic happening here, and this is, like, a bad situation that your friend is in. So let's look at it from that perspective and actually answer the question that you're asking. One of the things that I was thinking about when I was reading the submission, it reminded me of a lunch that I had with some friends recently where this was me and two other women, and one of the women is in an abusive relationship. She knows it. We know it. We talk about it a lot. It took a long time for our friendship to get to a place where I felt like I could say, hey, your relationship is abusive, and not have the concern that that's going to push her away from me. It took basically her telling me, hey, I think my relationship's abusive, and me being like, yes, it is. But now it's open conversation. But recognizing that a relationship is abusive doesn't mean that you leave the next day. That's actually really rare to leave immediately, because there's still, from the outside, we only see the bad things about her partner. Inside the relationship, there's manipulation that's happening, but she sees these vulnerable, soft, caring parts of him, which she understands objectively is part of that abuse dynamic. He pulls her in just enough to be able to treat her like shit, but she's still in it, and she still has this love for him, and that's really normal in these types of dynamics. And to give someone an ultimatum of like, get out or we're not friends anymore, you will lose that friend, and then she will be alone in this abusive relationship. So let's say that this dynamic that your friend is in is a power and control dynamic. It is not healthy. Your role is only to provide support, only to tell her, like, if you ever want to leave, I'm here to support you, to help you get out. But I don't judge you for staying in. There is no judgment, because this is what happens. And to understand that, like, and if you want to remain her friend, if you want to remain a good friend and a supportive friend, it is to just let her know that you are there for her. She will not leave until she's ready to leave. No matter how much you see that she understands logically, it's not going to happen until she's ready for it to happen. So your role is just to be supportive.
I will say yes. I agree. I don't know that there's much more actually to be said about this, because we have such limited information. And I think both of us are approaching this similarly. I'm reacting to what I've just read here, and you're taking it deeper with whatever the scenario might be. If this is going on, this should happen. If this is going on, that should happen, or whatever, which is giving practical and constructive advice, But I think after that, we're kind of, all right, that's it. What else can we say about this situation without more information?
So let me just kind of, I guess, synthesize in a list, like a to-do list. Step 1, focus on nourishing your relationship with her. That's step 1, is just her relationship with her boyfriend doesn't matter. Focus on your relationship with her. And then step 2 is keeping an eye on the relationship. And if it gets to a point where you are very concerned that this is the dynamic, no judgment, no shame, no ultimatums, just, I am here for you however you want to handle this relationship. And like, I'm thinking about like my friend that I was at lunch with, where the other woman and I that were there, who we've both been in abusive relationships in our histories, and we know how hard it is to get out. And we basically said to her, like, we are never going to pressure you, but you will inevitably reach a point where you know you have to go. And when that day comes, we are available to help you move. We will come pack you up. We will get you into a new place. Whenever you're ready, we are here for you. And that's it. It's no pressure to do it. Just when you need it, we are your support, and we've got you. And just knowing that for people who are in abusive dynamics, knowing that they have support if and when they get out makes it more likely to get out. If there is no support, they will stay, because that is the support that they have.
So just on the side, this relationship that you're personally referencing, is it still in the monitoring stage?
Last I heard, they broke up, and she's working on moving out by the end of this month. I've been out of the country, so I haven't been very aware, but I actually texted her a couple days ago to kind of check in and see how she's doing, if she needs any help with packing, and she's horrible at texting, so I have not heard back from her, but that's typical of her.
But you are staying connected. You're still reaching out. So I'm going to bounce back to your college friend that kind of wiped out the friendship once he got a girlfriend or whatever. Did you try reaching out at that time to maintain the relationship?
Constantly. I felt like, honestly, like, I don't remember all the details if this was 10 years ago, but 11 years ago. In retrospect, like, I think that I was maybe too available. Like, I was constantly texting him like, hey, do you want to get together? Hey, do you want to do this? Hey, we should revitalize this piece of our friendship. And he either never texted me back or said he was with his girlfriend and couldn't and was too busy.
People come into your life. You know, there's that saying, I can't remember it verbatim, but people come into your life sometimes for a day, sometimes for a season, sometimes for your lifetime. And while they're in your life, they have a real effect if that is the dynamic, but it doesn't mean it's going to go beyond the life of that friendship. It just then
Right.
ends and you're done.
And I brought him up and that whole dynamic up. First of all, I was not his only friend that felt that way at the time. He disappeared from everyone. But that's besides the point. I brought him up and that whole situation up. At this point in my life, I have basically come to terms with what you're saying, that people stay in your life for as long as they're meant to stay in your life, and you get and give what you're meant to get and give, and you learn and you grow from. The analogy that I use with my clients a lot, especially when they're talking about like breakups and stuff, is, or even friendships ending, is we're like bumper cars. And everyone who bumps into us is going to affect our trajectory, but it doesn't mean that they're going to stay by our side throughout the whole bumper car course. They're just going to, like, someone's going to come, like, we could be wedged into a wall, and they're going to come and bump into us enough to free us, and then we'll never see them again. Or we'll be heading one direction, someone will bump into us, and now we're on a completely different path, and we may or may not see them again, but they've changed our life. And that's, people come into our lives like bumper cars and push us one way or another, and we do the same for them. And that's just part of how human interaction works. So yes, personally, I have come to terms with that friendship was what it was for those 3 years, and it was great and wonderful, and we were the friends that we needed to be to each other at that time. But the reason that I brought him up and that whole situation is because even knowing that, the grief is still real, and it's okay to mourn a friendship ending. And in this case, with Mel and her friend, I don't think that the friendship is ending, but a version of it is. And it's okay to mourn. You've lived together for so long. Like, you're part of each other's lives. This is, like, the reason that I brought up, like, does your perception change? Does your opinion change if it's family versus a friend? When you're in that dynamic, when you're living together like that, you are family. This friend is family. So this is a family member who is drifting away. And that it is okay to have big feelings about a version of this relationship ending. That's hard. That's really hard. And it's okay to be upset and sad about that.
You know, you're making me think about my own relationship with my sister. You know, it was kind of interesting when my brother was alive. The three of us would get, and he was in Israel, my sister's in Maine, I'm in New York, but we would have email conversations. There would be a theme, whatever we were talking about. And based on who we are, my sister would take the theme and write a thesis. It would be multiple paragraphs explaining and overlapping and cross-referencing and doing, and it would be such a full amount of information. And then my brother would take his point of view, and it would be a paragraph. And he would tell his position. And then I would stick my 2 cents in. It would be 3 sentences, you know, because I need things simple. I need them easily understood. So, but we would do this, not on a regular basis, but fairly often. We would have these discussions via email, which kept us connected and into each other's heads somewhat. Even though we were physically apart, I would say the three of us was still, just like you and your brother and sister, you're in separate geographical areas, but you're very close and you can communicate with each other. So my brother, my sister, and I would do that. When my brother died, that dynamic ended. Mm-hmm. My sister and I don't have those conversations. You know, so I think back, you know, what was it why did we have them? And it was a way to bring my brother into our lives on a regular basis. Once he was gone, we stopped doing that. We no longer have that way of communicating. It's become very, very different. And we can go weeks and weeks and weeks without even speaking or connecting with each other. And of course, when we do, we're sisters. We're close. We can do that. But it's not until this moment that you've brought to my mind that I miss those. I never, I wasn't aware of how much I miss my brother terribly. I miss him every day. And he's been gone for 7, 8 years.
That's crazy that it's been
Yeah,
that long.
yeah. And I miss him all the time. His picture is my phone. I pick up my phone and my brother is there every time I look at my phone. So I constantly miss him, but it never dawned on me that I'm still grieving the relationship the three of us had together. I've never actually brought that to mind until what you've just said, that there is a grief for a relationship that has ended. My sister and I, our dynamic are very different. It's just two sisters who love each other. We would support each other, whatever, but we don't communicate the same way anymore at all. Things change.
And I was reading this book recently. It was fiction, but they were talking about this experience of this guy's like breakup. And one of the things that he talks about is the piece of a breakup that people don't recognize or talk about really is all the other mini breakups that happen when a breakup happens. That like he and his girlfriend broke up, but before then they met because his best friend and her best friend were engaged. And so then they met at their engagement party and then started dating. So the four of them had this group, and like when he and his girlfriend broke up, that friend group of the four of them also broke up. So there's this other breakup. And then he also lost access to her family, which is another breakup. And like I know for me, like in all of my breakups, one of the things that I end up missing the most is my ex's dog. Like because you lose access, and like in the first moments of a relationship ending, all you can think about is that relationship ending. But then as you continue to move through your life and all these familiar other connections have disappeared, it is a mini grief and a mini grief and a mini grief and a mini grief constantly, because there's all these other breakups that you weren't prepared for, that you don't even realize you've missed until the moment presents itself that now you are missing it. You can't prepare for those. And it's the same in what you're describing of losing your brother is unthinkable. There was no way to prepare for that, but it was all consuming, that grief. And you cannot even like conceptualize or conceive of the other small losses. Like that dynamic can't exist without him. So there is a loss of that relationship. That's also, it's a loss. There is a death in that too. To bring it back to Mel, we understand that there can be these collateral consequences to things changing. That, the friend's relationship is getting more serious, and in the wake of that, the friendship is changing, and that can be really, really painful. But also to kind of keep an eye on the dynamic, and I would say, like, trust your gut, and, like, get to know the boyfriend better, maybe, but really just to focus on your relationship with your friend, and strengthening that, because it sounds like you feel like you are falling through the cracks for her. So ask her what you can do together to, like I said before, nourish that relationship. And also another quick thought is, she mentioned that she's feeling depressed. Treat the mental health stuff, the depression, as a completely separate issue from the relationship. That you can show up and be like, it seems like you've been feeling depressed. I don't remember if she said that the friend has stated that she's feeling depressed.
And she's repeatedly said she's feeling depressed.
Okay, so she's telling you that she's feeling depressed. Okay, so say, like, how can I support you through this? How can I help uplift you and help you with this depression? How can I be a light in the darkness? Completely separate from the relationship. Just focus on what you can control, which is you, and how you show up in this friendship. And that's the end of my advice.
I'm just going to jump on to one thing you said just now, which was develop a relationship with the boyfriend. Now, we're hearing from this that he wants to distance her, to keep her away from the group. Maybe the group is overwhelming for him. He's the stranger now in this group that's so cohesive. So perhaps a one-on-one kind of reaching out or approaching the boyfriend, maybe a double date without the whole friend group. So he gets to feel that one of the people is okay. I can hang with one, but the whole group may be more than he can find himself comfortably moving into. So
that's a good point also, because from the submission, again, there's not a ton of information here, but from the submission, it sounds like all of the information that Mel is getting about the boyfriend is from the friend. Like, have you spent time with him? Do you know him? Have you watched firsthand what their dynamic is?
Yeah, the phrase here is she admitted that her boyfriend doesn't like her hanging out with us.
Yeah. Which I don't want to devalue or undermine whatever that fear is that Mel is having about potentially this boyfriend not being a great partner. Just keep an eye on it. But prioritize just being the most supportive friend you can be to your friend. And to not do anything that might push her further into a dynamic that might not be safe or healthy.
Right. But I want to underscore once again that for some people, it may be very hard as an outsider to break into this group.
And that's fine. That's separate from what I'm saying, which is just, totally. I don't want to devalue that instinct or that fear of like, this is a controlling dynamic, that it very well might be. Keep an eye on it while also focusing on strengthening the friendship with your friend.
And I'm still going to say, and understand that it's hard to break into a group if that group is so cohesive that her having a boyfriend means she's distancing herself. Anyway.
Another quick note that I'd written down was just kind of the question of, do other roommates have partners that like this seems different than how other people have handled relationships in the past? Or does no one have partners and so this is the first time that someone has had an outside relationship? Like, that's context that I think is important. Like, if everyone else has partners and still manages to balance the friendships and the roommate relationships with their partners, and then this roommate and friend isn't able to do that, then it like, there's a really stark difference that could be bringing more attention to this. But again, there could just be differences in how people handle things. So there's so many variables that we don't know, and that maybe, Mel, you don't even know. So just to kind of ask a lot of these questions that we've been asking of yourself and pay attention. And I always think that we should be looking out for our friends in any dynamic. And so I'm not saying just like, it's totally fine, ignore everything that's been a red flag to you, but keep an eye on it, pay close attention, and stay supportive of your friend.
A good note to end on.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Shain.
And this has been Listen to My Mother.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a positive review and subscribing to us on your favorite platform.
And if you'd like the chance to listen to my mother, head to the link in our show notes, which is currently bit.ly/listen to my submission. That's bit.ly/listen to my submission, and submit your question.
No question is off limits.
And don't forget to follow our journey on Instagram at Listen to My Mother or at whatsthepoint.therapy.
Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.
Bye, Mama.
Bye, baby.